All right, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to settle. And then will you give a 3, 2, 1, Mike? Thank you so much.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Just want to double check mics. Blue, if you could bring the mic a little closer to you.
How's that?
Awesome. It's good. If you could tilt it down a little bit too, I want to get it like kind of parallel slightly. Is the cage part? Yep. Perfect. That's good. Awesome. Yeah, the closer you speak into it, the better you sound on the mics. Cool. All right. Yeah, just let me know what you have for breakfast. Do a mic check.
Eggs and bacon.
Nice. Okay, perfect.
He's a paleo guy.
All right. Nice. You guys both sound great. We're ready to go. Just give me 10 seconds of silence. I'll be able to start.
Mike, sorry, the camera's good? It didn't move? It's totally fine? Okay. Can I take this off? Do you mind?
Go for it.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here, so
I know, yeah.
I'm
It's
on.
really
But you have to ask her. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I got you, cooties.
You're okay.
All right. Hey, what's up? I'm MJ, and welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. Super excited today. I'm in the studio with Dustin Wilson. Dustin is an entrepreneur and a master sommelier. And in 2016, he co-founded Verve Wine, which is an online-focused wine retail business that has physical locations in New York City and San Francisco, and Chicago is coming soon. So he's got the whole of America covered. And he is the former wine director of the 3-star Michelin restaurant 11 Madison Park. And it was that expertise that led him to a leading role in the critically acclaimed wine documentary series Somm. And he was in Somm 1, 2, and 3. Dustin, that's what I know about you. What would you like to say to everybody now that you're here?
Oh man, I don't know. I think that's all fancy stuff, but I just like to have a good time and drink good wine and do stuff that I love.
Awesome, man.
That's basically it.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, man. And
thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's really cool to be here with you. This is one of those things where social media works right. You know, I remember when I came on Instagram, like 2017, as the Black Wine Guy. You were like one of the first people to follow me. I don't know what it was. And you always, if I went into your DM, you always responded to the DM. You're very approachable, which is super important with wine. And also you're like a little bit of a maverick. Like you're in the Somm movies. You had like a cush job. Like why would someone leave 11 Madison Park to go into retail?
Yeah. I get that question a lot, actually. People thought I was crazy when I was doing it. And, I probably was a little bit crazy at the time because, EMP is a phenomenal restaurant, and we had a great wine program, and I had like 6 sommeliers underneath of me, or I should say, working with me, we're popping open crazy stuff on a nightly basis. It was awesome, but I spent about 20 years working in restaurants. And, was about 35 years old, mid-30s, and I'm kind of looking at my life, and I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do in the future, right? So it's kind of started thinking down that path. I'd spent so much time, basically from my early 20s until then, chasing the career. And, at a certain point, I was at EMP, and I'm like, all right, well, what's the next, 10 years or so going to look like? And, I started thinking, okay, I could stay here at EMP. I'm not going anywhere. Potentially they'll grow into a larger group and I can be like maybe a corporate wine director or something like that. And I think that probably could have easily happened. But, there was this kind of itch inside of me that I always wanted to do something on my own. I wanted to create my own business. And, I kind of wanted that for a long time. And even when I started at EMP, I remember thinking, I'm like, all right, this might be like my last, quote unquote, job, at least, as I was hoping. I knew I wanted to kind of work somewhere really great and use that platform to kind of, go off and do something else. And, I remember standing in the dining room one day during lineup and looking outside and seeing all these, those beautiful, big, beautiful windows in 11 Madison Park, and you're looking out onto Madison Square Park, and seeing all these people that were enjoying the sunshine and sitting out in the park and reading a book and having some Shake Shack and wearing shorts, and I'm stuck inside in this suit, and it was like hour number 17 or something like that. I'm like, what in the world am I doing here still? It's time to figure this out, So there's a couple things. I mean, one was kind of the itch to do something. Second, I think the restaurant lifestyle was starting to get a little old for me. I think I wanted a lifestyle change, and I'm like, man, if I want to be a father one day or something, like, can't really be pulling these kinds of hours and all these late nights and weekends and holidays and all that stuff. And, so it was kind of like the right time. And for a long time, I thought I wanted to open a restaurant. But then I think, being exposed to EMP and kind of what it took to execute at that level, I think it became really quickly clear that, do I want to kind of spend the next 10, 20 plus years of my life kind of in this same sort of zone? And, started thinking about other options. And for me, the important things that I decided, or the priorities for me, were to, kind of balance my life out a little bit. I wanted to be able to create time for myself to, if I have a family one day, to be able to do that. Second was to, spend time with loved ones and kind of be around that. It was really important for me to be able to continue to work around all the wines that I've grown to love and the things that I've been exposed to. I didn't know what that was going to look like. So I kind of thought about the different paths that it could take. And it was actually on a wine trip to France. It was in Burgundy with a group and visiting wineries. It was a great trip. And I met my business partner, Derek. And, he was talking about retail. And it wasn't something that I'd really thought about before, and until then, and then just started kind of thinking more on it about how, it kind of fit a lot of those things. It was more daytime kind of a thing. It's the holidays and things like that are a little bit more flexible. Still get to work with all the same wines that I'd want to. It's like, instead of going into like distribution or importing or something where you're stuck with a portfolio,
right.
You can still be really selective. And then the one thing that I really noticed was, I knew where to go get a good bottle of wine in New York City. And most of the cities I would visit, I knew like the shop, or a handful of shops you could go get something awesome. But I'm kind of lazy. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not really lazy, but I don't like to go out of my way for things. So
it's okay to be lazy, bro. I say that to myself all the time. I'm like, damn, you're lazy.
I just wanted to be able to like really order something online and just have it arrive,
my God,
and
yes.
So I'd go to some of these shops and try to order things online, and it was super old school still. You had to either call the shop and talk to them, or I'd try to order something and it was out of stock. It was kind of a pain in the ass, and I'm like, why does it have to be like this? Why can't it just be really simple and easy? We're in the age of the internet now. Like, I started to see an opportunity there. It's like, all right, well, there's this kind of confluence of things, and I've always kind of worked off of like where I see opportunity, but also kind of gut instinct of saying like, okay, well, nobody's really doing this like heavy online wine thing yet in like a boutique kind of very curated fashion.
Right. I mean, you got Gary V with Wine Library, but there's no boutique.
You got Gary V doing it totally, and he's selling Barefoot and Yellowtail and all that stuff too. What I mean? Like, that's not really my jam.
Josh, right? You don't like Josh?
Love the team. Nothing wrong with the team. But there's like the wine.com and things like that. But they weren't selling kind of the really curated, like kind of farm to table, family owned type of like things that I was really interested in and used to. So I saw a niche there that was like yet to be filled, and got super jazzed up and inspired by it. So that was the impetus. That was enough for me to kind of decide to leave EMP and chase after it. Going through it all now, looking back at it, I'm like, man, you were an idiot, because like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Obviously, I think things have turned out pretty all right, and I'm enjoying it. But I thought I knew a lot, and it became very quickly apparent that I didn't know what I was doing. So it took a little while to get used to it.
Totally. That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Wow. I mean, you said you started working in restaurants, I guess, when you're about 15.
That's right.
What was your first job in a restaurant?
I worked at this sub shop near my parents' house. It was called Casa Mia's in Perry Hall, Maryland, and basically answering phones and taking orders from people, and then graduated to being able to work the cold sub line. So I was making like Italian cold cut sandwiches and
Ham,
stuff
cheese,
like
and
that.
capicola.
If it was like a real good night, I got to work the pizza station.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did that for a good chunk of time. Then I started delivering subs and pizzas and stuff like that once I could drive. So that was my first gig.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go deeper than that, but I get this wine is just kicking ass right now. Like it just, I know you just popped it, but what year is this? What are we drinking?
So this is a producer named Commando G or Commando Hey.
Mm-hmm.
They're a small producer in Sierra de Gredos, which is an area outside, just about 45 minutes to an hour outside of Madrid in Spain. And it's Daniel Landy and his partner Fernando that are kind of the people behind the project. And I'm a big fan of Grenache, so everything they do is Grenache, and it's kind of these high elevation head prune vines, like old vine stuff, just really super interesting. And I love that it's like this really delicate, pale, aromatic, like super silky, sexy, ephemeral kind of style of Grenache. And I think personally, I think he's one of the best winemakers in Spain right now.
Right on. I'm a huge Grenache fan myself. So this is really and I love the different styles, but I'm getting
just to clarify for the people that are listening, it's 2018. It's the Premier Cru or the Premier Rosas as they call it. So they make kind of a couple different tiers that they label sort of like Burgundy. There's like a village wine.
Yep.
This is like the Premier Cru wine, and then they've got some Grand Cru stuff.
So this isn't $10. You didn't bring.
No, it's not crazy expensive.
No, I know,
it's like,
but
high 40s or something.
That's wine's so funny like that. Like depending on where you're at, you're like, nah, it's like it's $80. It's not a lot, And that's not
my wheelhouse is like 25 to 50.
Yeah,
That's,
I know, but it is true, man. Like it's got a lot of stuff going on. So very cool. So you're down in Maryland.
Yep.
And then like you're at the sub shop, you're working a pizza line, you're doing deliveries, and then like what was the progression? Like what was the next gig? And, like did you go off to college or like did you
no. So gosh, where was I then? I can't remember the exact timeline, but at a certain point in time, or my family moved up north in Maryland a little bit, and I found another like sub shop job for a little while. But then I ended up working as a waiter. My stepbrother, who's a little older than me, was working as a waiter at TGI Fridays and was like making good money. And I'm like, how do I get that job?
He's like, that's like the gig I want.
I knew nothing about restaurants.
Fridays to Master Somm. I love this.
I just wanted. I was chasing the money. I was making like $7 an hour or something like that at the sub shop, and he was making like a couple $100 or $100 to $200 a night in tips. And I'm like, man, I need that. I didn't care where it was. I just wanted the job. And so I ended up interviewing and got a job at TGI Fridays, where I spent like, I think I was there for like 4 or 5 years or something.
Now let me ask you a question though. How much bling did you wear?
Dude, I had all the bling.
Did you wear the standard bling? Did you only have 30 pieces of bling?
I had all
the bling. Or did you go
bling.
beyond and you really express
I was
yourself
that quintessential
with your bling?
dude. Like, I was like, you ever watch, what was it? Office Space.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Were you the guy?
The guy.
Fuddruckers.
Fuck yeah, that was me.
That was you. I love it. The things like, yeah.
Not quite as like douchey as that guy was, but yeah, like I was really competitive. I wanted to like sell more than everybody else. I wanted to like oversell on like the big margaritas and like the appetizer platters and all that kind of stuff because I wanted the bling. I wanted it.
Yeah, nice.
And so I think that's why they let me stay for so long. So I started as a waiter there and eventually became a bartender when I turned 21.
Okay.
And that's where I started kind of getting exposed to booze. And
Got it.
and originally it was just making all the kind of quirky cocktails and things like that you get at a place
Buttery
like,
nipple. What
all that like mudslides and stuff like that. And
Sex on the beach.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself. Sex on the beach was a big drink.
Totally,
when I was like 21, 22.
Same.
Yeah.
But
Malibu rum.
At the time, I thought I was like the coolest person in the world, and making these drinks, and I was making good money, and I was like, oh, this is great. And I finished up school, and my options. So I was a geography major in college with a business minor, and I quickly realized that any job that I was going to take, that had to do with my diploma was going to be a significant pay cut from what I was making as a bartender at the time. So I had a really hard time with that. I didn't like making less money. So
Hi, I'm Mr. Wilson. Welcome to geography.
Right.
You want whatever out.
I mean, I love teachers, and I thought about it, and I really respect what teachers do. My mom was a teacher, and but I couldn't give it up. I liked kind of the lifestyle and things. So I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. There was a good chunk of time there, like post school, that I just had no idea what I wanted to do. But I
had that too, like for like 25 years. So I get it.
Still not quite sure.
Hoping this thing works out, this podcast.
Yeah.
I did major in communication, so maybe I can
there you go.
squeeze
so
something
you're
out of that
on it.
degree, man.
Yeah, exactly. But that kind of that bartending gig definitely got me into booze a little bit, and started to kind of pique my interest in like, what's the difference between like vodka and gin, and why is this Grand Marnier like so much more expensive than these other things? And it got me intrigued. And then from there, I ended up getting a job as a waiter down at a place called Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, which is like a chain steakhouse.
Yeah, everybody knows Ruth's Chris.
Down in Baltimore.
I went to the one in Beverly Hills. I thought it was like the best meal ever at the time.
I still love Ruth's Chris.
I mean, they got good steaks,
good
man.
steak,
I mean,
covered in butter. There's hot plates.
Right,
Like,
and they have they have all your big California heavy cabs. So you can get a decent bottle of wine there.
Totally. So when I got there, I knew nothing about wine, and I was very clear with them about that. And they didn't have a sommelier there, or anybody really to kind of teach you about it outside of the waiters themselves that had been there for a long time. And there was definitely some like career waiters there, and that's kind of where I got into wine, was the kind of the head waiter, if you will, that had been there for a decade or so, and always worked the best section. And he's like, look, if you want to make money here, you got to learn the wine lists. And I was like, okay, well, teach me, and he sat me down for my first tasting. And I remember it was, we did some Chardonnays that we were pouring by the glass. And I just tasted like the two different ones. And he was like kind of showing me the nuances between them both. I was like, this is amazing. This is so cool. Like this is crazy. So, from there, I bought my first wine book, which was Wine for Dummies.
Me too. Oh my God, that was my first wine book when I got it. And let me tell you something. That is a great book.
It's a great book.
It's probably it's one of the best books ever written.
Yeah.
On it was awesome.
It did the job.
It really did the job. I love that book. I still have it to this day.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
I lost mine.
I lost mine too, but I bought one again a few years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
okay.
I had to.
I wish I still had mine.
Yeah.
But once I kind of like started reading that book, I got fully hooked really quickly and found myself, paying a lot of attention to that, and bought some other books, and then was going to the wine stores and like perusing shelves, and spent, an hour in there just kind of looking around, and would buy a bottle and go home and drink it and like kind of learn about it at the same time. And, I just fell in love with it. And, at the same time, I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. It was kind of up in the air. And I'm a big skier. I like to ski, and I love the mountains. And so I was like, you know what? I've got some time to kill. I'm still young enough. I want to move to Colorado. And I want to live in Colorado for a little while and just ski and like have some fun. So the goal was to kind of move out there and find a job where I could keep learning about wine, work nights so I could ski during the day. And that was the plan. So this was in 2005 that I moved out there and landed in Boulder in Colorado. And, I was there. I had no idea where I wanted to work. So I was just kind of going around to restaurants and like, checking out the wine lists and seeing what they were all about, or trying to read some reviews. And I remember this was back when like you couldn't just like take your cell phone from one state and like take it to a new state. You had to like get a new phone number.
Oh, yeah.
Like you couldn't transfer your phone number.
Totally.
Back then.
That I remember that racket.
So I had to go to the Verizon store and get a new Colorado phone number. And I just remember asking the one, I was like, hey, I just moved here. I'm looking for a good restaurant job. Do you happen to know of any good restaurants? She's like, well, my boyfriend's a pastry chef, happens to be. And he loves this place called Frosca Food and Wine. He said he thinks it's the best restaurant in the state. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I, figure out where this place is, and I go down there the next day, and I just can't imagine like what they must have thought of me on that first day, because I walk in and I think I had like a holy T-shirt on, and a pair
like
of
with Jesus Christ on it, or like
no, like had holes in it, and like cargo shorts, and I probably looked all disheveled. And
hey, I was wearing cargo shorts earlier today.
and I go and I didn't want to eat or anything because it was kind of expensive, but I just wanted to see their wine list. So I just asked to see their wine list. I'm paging through it, and I'm like looking at this thing. And remember, I came from like Ruth's Chris, where it's like all big Napa wines and Bordeaux, and like a lot of the big heavy hitter brands,
right.
And then I'm looking through this wine list and I don't recognize anything. Their whole shtick is like wines of Friuli and cuisine of Friuli, Italy. So it's very Italian heavy. I didn't recognize anything on here, and I'm like, this wine list is weird. Where's the Silver Oak? Where's the Opus One?
Exactly.
Like, where's the stuff?
Where's the Dominus?
And I was about to write it off. I'm like, this place sucks.
This is awesome. This is awesome. For you guys who don't know, this restaurant, this is awesome. Keep telling this story. This is so awesome.
So,
yeah.
I'm about to like kind of leave, and I go to give the wine list back, and Bobby just happens to be there, and he was like, hey there, how you doing? I was like, great. He's like, are you joining us for dinner tonight? And, I can just picture Bobby looking at me, and of course I'm not joining for dinner that night. I'm like by myself and like, looking the way I looked. He's like, you coming in for dinner? And I was like, no, I told him the story. I'm just moved to town. I'm looking for a job, and I really like wine, so I was just kind of looking around at places that have fun wine. He's like, oh, well, cool. Well, here's my card. Let me know if I can be of any help. And knowing Bobby now, he's
right.
Mr. Hospitality, so
right.
I don't blame him.
Right.
It's perfect. It's kind of par for the course for him. And so I take the card, say thank you very much, and I walk out the door. And as I get outside, I look at his card and I see the initials MS after his name, and I knew what that meant. I knew of these creatures called Master Sommeliers.
There was like 10 of them back then, probably. It was very, very few.
Yeah, none. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd never met one of these people before. So I'm like, holy shit, I just met a Master Sommelier.
So tell everybody,
crazy.
Bobby. So some people might not. Some people might not know who Bobby is.
Yeah. So quick on Bobby. He's a Master Sommelier as well. He's the partner of Frasca Food and Wine, this restaurant in Boulder. They also have another restaurant concept called Pizzeria Locale. They've got a place down in Denver called Tavernetta. At the time, it was just the one restaurant, just Frasca. But he is, an icon in the industry nowadays. He's looked at as one of the premier hospitality professionals in the business, and incredibly talented guy. He's hugely successful. And also just one of all around nicest people on the planet.
And a badass. I mean, the guy.
And a badass.
The guy like runs marathons.
Yeah, runs like sub 3 hour marathons.
Yeah, he's amazing. And
He's
it
insane.
Stuckey, Bobby Stuckey or Bobby Stuckey?
Stuckey.
Yeah.
Stuckey.
Yeah. Just badass. Just running with Kenyans in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah.
But a super approachable guy. Like I see where if you came up under him, I can tell it totally makes sense now. I mean, I knew you worked there, but I'm putting it together. And that first meeting is just so cool. You're no, I'll just have some bread, a bottle of Pellegrino.
yeah, like that.
But like he gave you his card, then what happened?
So I leave, and I'm like, oh god, I think there's a Master Sommelier here. This is perfect. I've always wanted to learn about wine. Who better to learn it from than a Master Sommelier? So I go home, I look up the Frasca website, start reading about it, and like looking about him, and saw that he worked at the French Laundry, and I saw he won a James Beard Award, and I see that he's worked at the Little Nell Hotel in Aspen, and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my god! I just walked into like this jackpot, of an opportunity,
right.
And so the next day I go back down there, and I dressed up a little bit the next day. I put on like a collared shirt and I've seen photos of this day actually. And I think I put on a really crappy looking tie, and like I had these really baggy khakis. And I roll back down there, try to look a little nicer. And I walk in. It's during the day. They weren't open yet, but some of the employees were there. And I go in. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And there's 2 people behind the bar. And I said, hi, I was interested in putting in an application to work with you guys. And I always give this person crap now for this, and this is like she hates this when I tell this story, so I won't say her name, but she knows who she is.
You know who you are, and you will be listening because Dustin's on the Black Wine Guy Experience.
She looks at me and she goes, yeah, we don't have applications, but if you want to drop off a resume, feel free. And I was like, oh, shit. It's like that kind of place. Okay. So, I'm like, oh, okay, thanks very much. And I just walked right back out the door, tail between my legs, feeling like an idiot.
I'd have went right to the public library.
Oh, I went straight home, jumped on my
Microsoft Word,
computer.
resume templates.
Well, I remember I had to like get out because I luckily still packed like my old business school books from school, and I was like, how to write a resume. And I pull it out and I find the page and I just basically like jot it down. I've got my TGI Fridays bartender. I've got my Ruth's Chris Steakhouse waiter on there, thinking like I'm kind of a badass.
I'm a baller.
Yeah. Go back down, drop it off. And, she's there again and some other people are there and I hand it in. I'm like, hey, just hand it resume. Like, okay, great. Thanks very much. We'll let you know. One of those kind of things. I'm like, okay, cool. So I was like, I'm not letting this go. And so I think I went back every day to bug them to see if they had looked at the resume, if they were interested. Can I talk to somebody? Went back every day for, I think, like at least like 4 or 5 days or something. And I think by day 5 or 6 or whatever it was, I think they were like, look, this kid's not going anywhere. Can somebody please just sit down and talk to him? And Bobby happened to be there. So Bobby came out and sits me down. I was like, look, looks like we might have something opening up because we're putting a patio outside. One of my servers is going to have to be out there, so I'm going to have to bump somebody up from like a back waiter position. You're going to have to start at the bottom. You're going to be like in the kitchen, like scrubbing floors in the bathroom, like cleaning toilets and mopping the floors and stuff. And I was like, as long as I can pay my rent, I'm in. And that was it. And then that's kind of like that was the moment that changed my life. Honestly, getting that job and working with him because, fast forward and I ended up being there for like 3 years and, worked my kind of way up the ranks and went from that, expediter and back waiter and scrubbing floors and toilets and stuff to waiting tables and then did that for a bit. And then he gave me my first sommelier position and that was it. So, that's kind of where it all started for me.
Wow. That's man.
Yeah.
That's I don't think that was in the Somm series, so that's good stuff right there, man. That, like the backstory, that's so really cool. Speaking of which, so like, I mean, you're in Somm and
can I pour some more wine
please,
for you, by
come
the
on,
way?
bro. Come on.
I can't look at this empty glass. Like
Yeah,
this.
I can't look at it. Man.
Those who can't see, what is it you're drinking?
Oh, we're still drinking the same bottle of
Oh
wine.
yeah. Same bottle.
Just so you know.
Yeah, if we would have finished the bottle.
I have a
quick,
producer.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What do you think about this so far?
This?
Podcast, yeah, like
This
right.
is awesome. This
Right.
is like I said, the most legit podcast I've ever been on.
That's what's
Yeah.
up. Cheers. I'll drink to that.
Cheers. Most of the time, I do it like over the phone.
Now, so like, I'm starting to reveal more on Instagram. Like we all have crazy backstories, but like I'm big into like success, and success means what, getting what you want. That's for me. That's the ultimate success. Like, it's not chasing the dollar. Like I like what you said earlier. It's not about. It's like, you want to carve out time to have a family. You want to have a life, right? Because restaurant life is rough. It's fun though. It's a ton of fun. It's a great time. And if I got caught up in the perils of it, if you know what I mean, there are perils of restaurant life.
Sure, we could exchange some stories.
Exactly. But to go from subs to Fridays to Ruth Chris to scrubbing the floors to being in the Somm series. So he gave you your first job as a sommelier. So it's now become like back then, like you didn't have like a lot of Somms weren't certified. They just knew a shit ton about wine, correct?
Yeah.
So did he push you into going for your MS, or just you caught the bug? You were inspired by him. Tell me a little bit.
He
about
never pushed me to do it, from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely kind of part of the culture there. Him being a master sommelier at the time, the guy that was running the wine program was a guy named Nate Reddy, who's also now a master somm, and he's got a great winery out in Oregon. phenomenal stuff. Hayu Wine Farm, great stuff. And so it was kind of like, people were going down that path. There was also, oddly enough, Boulder, Colorado, or Colorado in general, had like a ton of Master Sommeliers there.
That's crazy.
I went from like never meeting one in my life to they would be coming indoor like a couple times a week. So it was just kind of sort of around me all the time. And these guys were all really approachable. They were super nice. They were highly educated. They were really invested in kind of like watching the younger talent kind of come up, and they just all really inspired me. And Brett Zimmerman was out there, Jay Fletcher. There's a bunch of these guys that were kind of coming through the restaurant on a fairly regular basis that I just looked at them and I was like, man, I want to be those guys. I like these guys. And so that's kind of what started me down the path. And, I got into it. And the plan, I never intended to become a master sommelier. That was never the goal. I just wanted to educate myself more and become better at my job. And, so I took the level 1, studied real hard for it, and almost got the high score. The guy who beat me to the high score, so I came in second, is now a friend of mine. We've like been buddies ever since. Anyway, so that guy, his name's David. I won't say his last name, just keep it off. But David and I kind of became buddies after that because we were a little competitive in that. I wanted to get the high score. He got the high score. I gave him shit for it.
Right.
And then we kind of just connected.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan to go for the second level, the certified. I just wanted to take that first one and just kind of do it. And he calls me up. He's like, I'm taking second level. Are you doing it? I was like, well, I am now.
Exactly. You're real competitive. I like that. Did you do any sports when you were younger, or just
a little bit?
Nature?
I played baseball.
Okay,
yeah.
just by nature.
But yeah. I didn't want him to beat me to it. So, so he kind of pushed me to go for second level, and then. I didn't pass the second level the first time around, so I went back to do it again, and that really pissed me off, and I had a chip on my shoulder the second time. And so when I passed that time, I was definitely a little more interested in maybe going for the third level just to kind of see if I could get that far. Then it became like a more competitive with myself kind of situation. And but I was like, you know what, if I ever do the third, that's going to be it. That's as far as I'm not going to go all the way. It's just not feasible. There's no way I could do it. I had self-doubt at the time. And eventually, took the second level once, failed, passed service and theory, but missed tasting. Went out, did it again, failed, same thing, passed theory and service, missed tasting. So giant beat down on multiple levels. But then again, it was like, I feel like I can do this thing. I feel like I can get it. And I went the third time and finally got through. And then it became this thing of like, well, all right, you've gone through all this. You just did the advanced 3 times. You've gotten this far. It's the next thing is like right in front of you. Why not at least try? Why not at least go for it? So that's kind of where it ended. And I remember the first time I went out for it, I was obviously totally freaked out and super nervous about the whole thing. And I only passed service the first time that I went. But I remember walking away being like, you know what, this is attainable. I can see like the light at the end of the tunnel with this. I think if I actually really hunker down, I could probably pull this off. And then, the second time around, it happened. So it's
nice.
Really cool. Yeah.
So from your job as a somm at Frasca till you got your Master Somm, how long of a time period was that?
Start to finish. Well, when I took my intro, it was in 2006, and I passed the MS in 2011. So about 5 years.
Damn.
Start to finish, which, it's not short, but it's not too long. I know.
It's just perseverance.
Kind of somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
I mean, but like what I really heard in there, like there's so much perseverance. Like, I went to law school and I have not passed any bar exam. And I've probably taken it like 5 times. And I'm not that dumb. I'm really not. But you know what? I think the difference is you saw something for yourself and you really wanted to do it. Like once you really want to do it, if you're a competitive person, like, that's really killer. So that's a little opening for something. So, another reason why I wanted you on here is you're very you're very you're woke. You're woke as fuck, right? So like like I know you're a big supporter of diversity in the industry, and after all the violence that's still happening, saw a huge movement. The Court of Master Sommeliers has come under fire, and I know you actually have been critical of them. Say a little bit about that, man. Like, why would you you don't listen, man. I mean, I'm like, if I was white, I'd just do my thing. I mean, I got black friends. I'm cool. I mean, like, you don't have to like, you don't have to be a muckraker.
Ruffle
yeah,
feathers.
exactly. You don't have to be a muckraker.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it was, I guess, I think I tried to see it from a few different perspectives, and for better or for worse, the Court of Master Sommeliers is an organization that's looked up to by many in the industry across the globe as the pinnacle and like the leaders of this industry. And I think I was already a little kind of annoyed with the organization, if I can say that, like from the year before. You probably heard about the cheating scandal.
That's where you were very vocal about that too.
The more I thought about it and I started hearing some of the stories, and just like it wasn't great. I didn't love the way it was being handled, and and then I started noticing that there was this culture of like, don't say anything, don't ruffle feathers, shut up and get in line, kind of thing. I was like, fuck that, I'm not, no. I was like,
from
this
Baltimore.
is not, no.
From Baltimore. So you ever see The Wire?
Right. I'm like,
I'll fuck you up.
I'm like,
that's why I tell people,
no.
I'm from Jersey, man. Don't fuck
So
with me.
it just didn't seem right. I'm like, guys, this is not right. Like, to me anyway, it just didn't seem right. And there was a small cohort of us that kind of were all on the same page with that.
Right.
And going through that process really gave me kind of some insight onto how the organization operates, and some of the kind of what am I trying to say? Kind of the holes in their systems, so to speak.
Sure.
Not accusing anybody of anything personally whatsoever, but it's there's kind of the way the organization is structured. It kind of made things really tricky to kind of navigate these waters, and learned a lot about it. And we ended up ultimately walking away from the whole situation without really gaining any traction on it, and spent close to a year and a half kind of pushing to have something change. Nothing changed. Left a bad taste in my mouth, as well as some others. And, and then this all came about, and they were dragging their feet, and here we are again. I'm like, guys, get your freaking shit together. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's go. Like, again, their whole mentality at the time was kind of like, oh, this isn't our problem. Let's just stay out of it. We don't want to dip our toes into these waters when it has, quote unquote, nothing to do with us. And again, I didn't like that. I'm like, guys, people look up to us. We are the pinnacle of this industry. Like, we have to do something. You have to say something. It's time. Like, fucking stand up. And, I don't have a ton of influence within the organization, to be honest. It's run by a board, and I'm not on the board, and not even eligible to run for the board. So, my only influence is basically on making some noise on social media. And so, I tried to use that to just kind of nudge them and kick them and say, guys, let's go. And, that was kind of my mentality on it. Was I don't have, I had to use what I had at my disposal to try to initiate something. And, I think ultimately they had some missteps with the whole situation. They are making up for that now. I went through a brief period of time where I was kind of like, do I want to stay a part of this organization? Do I want to bounce? Is this, something that I continue to believe in? Or, do I believe that they can change and get better and kind of fix some of these issues that they have? And, I've battled with that for a good chunk of time. Obviously, you probably saw some people did exit the organization.
Yeah. And I just, I don't know that you should, because I know, like, with stuff like with politics, sometimes you have to be in the mix.
Totally.
You have to be in the muck and mire. So while I get why they're making this huge statement, you're like, the guys at the '68 Olympics with their fist up, right? Like, they made a huge statement.
Right.
Ruin their whole lives. Like, I'm not saying these guys' lives are going to be ruined, but like, it's the John Conyers, it's the John Lewises who get in there sometimes. You got to, because inside of these old crotchety white man organizations, people have to be on the inside making changes. It's not going to come from the outside, because we'll just get kids with guns to come by and shoot you, and guys with paintballs. I mean, it's got to happen from within.
Throw soup cans.
Throw soup cans at you. I don't know. It just went there, but no.
But yeah, and that was exactly my thing. It's I kind of was waffling back and forth, and ultimately decided, I'm like, look, it's I think the organization, whether I stay in or not, like, is still going to be looked at in this way, and I can either be a part of some change and try to push for some change, and stay in it and kind of and get my hands dirty, or walk. And it just felt like the better thing to do is to stay in and try to push.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately what I decided to do.
Yeah, totally cool, man. And so like that, it's like looked up to, like how old? Like, it's an old organization, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, it was started back in the '60s in London. Well,
really, there you go.
Yeah,
those Brits.
It hit the shores here in the early '80s or mid '80s, I think. I can't remember the exact year. So it's been around for a bit. I mean, it's not a really old organization,
right?
But it's for better or for worse, and I know other MSs will give me shit for saying this, but it's very much looked at as kind of an old boys club situation.
Yeah,
and for a lot of it, it was in a lot of ways, and I think they're trying to change that. I think they are, they kind of, the mirror has been held up, so to speak, and they're like, oh, okay, we need to evolve, we need to change, we need to do stuff. So I think they're on the right track. I think they're making a lot of good changes. Their head is in the right place now. They're pushing. It's getting better. So we're not there yet. I don't know if we'll ever be there fully, but I think at least there's this kind of new energy that's kind of emerged in the organization that is really positive, and I think is going to be, in the next, call it 6 months to the next 10 years, I think really positive for both the organization as well as the industry at large.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, people, no matter, it's just, all that aside, no matter what, it's rigorous. It's a rigorous program.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and I think people, I'll probably get shit for this, but like, I see people like saying, blah blah blah, this is racist. I'm like, it might be because we live in America, but you're talking the best, the top organization, like only the best basketball players in the NBA. Like there's not like just I want to play basketball. It's not just I want to be a sommelier. Like, and it's like,
right.
Like you said, like it was 5 years, and there was times you were going to walk away. Like it takes perseverance, you know.
Yeah.
But it is definitely good that they are taking strides. It's like wine, right? Like you would get bored drinking the same wine every night. Like, seriously, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Reyes. You can't drink Reyes every night.
Right. You could.
You could, but like
it would get boring.
It would get boring after about a year. But you know what I mean. But like, it's like you said earlier, like the ability that you knew where to get good bottles of wine, and like how Frasca attracted you because like you're like, oh, I've never known these wines are weird. You know what I mean?
I think it really highlighted, though, part of a broader issue within the industry that, I think wine is, I like where things are heading right now. Like it's becoming an industry that's more open and more diverse, and like people are making some noise and changing things up. And I think that's really what it needed because, for a long time it was just kind of the same old types of people that were, a part of it, or like it was just kind of closed off and a little bit more exclusive, and it's not what wine's about, right? Like wine is meant to be shared. Like we're drinking it right now. It's sitting at a table with a group of people and like having a great time around it. And I think there was kind of an air of exclusiveness to the wine world that I feel like is breaking down right now. That's, I think, a really positive thing.
Speaking of which, my glass is getting a little low.
Yeah. Let me please
pour me some more wine, Dustin. Oh man, thank you, man.
Yeah,
getting like this sweet sour cherry thing in here, and just like some peppery spice.
Yeah, it's so good.
Fun stuff. This is really good. And that's the thing, right? I tell people, or I like to think like that's the thing. Like, sit down with someone, have a glass of wine, and have a conversation, the world will really actually become a better place, you know?
Totally.
It's got to be wine. Can't be hard liquor. Can't be oldie. Can't be anything that'll get you amped up and want to fight. Can't be Mickey's. It's got to be some wine.
Mine's like a perfect alcohol range.
It really is. It's just
it's a little stronger than beer.
Exactly.
It's not gonna get you too hammered like tequila.
Exactly. Just provides a little lubricant. You know.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Like people like it's not about me. It's about but like. I was lucky. I knew someone whose family owned a great store in New York. That's how I got in, right? So I had a little different experience, but I didn't have to start at the bottom. I actually started at the top and then went down wrong other direction. But it's been really interesting and good to see and hear more voices and that's something I peeped with you. So in the beginning we talked about how you were like, what was I crazy for going to retail? But then like when COVID hit, what'd you think? Because you see restaurants closing and you have a online based business. Like I would be like, I'm a genius.
We definitely lucked out in that sense. I have a ton of friends in the restaurant business and it's been really, really tough to see everything that they're going through. And, the industry is in disarray at the moment, and there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going to happen with that. And the reality is it's hitting home with a lot of people, and it's I have tons of friends who are like out of work right now. Yeah. So it's really tough. And like I remember when it happened, or when it was obviously coming, and there was going to be a shutdown. I honestly thought I was on the phone with my business partner and like our kind of leadership team. And I was just under the impression we were going to have to close. I was like, there's no way they're going to keep like liquor stores open. we're not quote unquote essential. What's essential about getting your bottle of vodka or like buying some wine? Like what? It's crazy. Like grocery stores, sure, but like booze shops, no. And then the regulations came. Like so we were ready. I was like looking at how to properly go through the paces of like, furloughing or laying people off or, what does our financial situation look like? Kind of going through all of that. And then the regulations come out and package stores, as they call them, or, liquor stores for better or for worse, were considered essential and allowed to stay open. And we're like, oh, well, all right. So then, then we're trying to figure out, all right, well, how are we going to operate? How do we, if we're able to stay open, how do we keep our team safe? And keep them employed and make sure that we're kind of following safety regulations and things like that. So we decided to close down the stores to walk-ins and just decided to go all in online. And I had no idea what was coming. If I was like a smarter economist type of person, I would have been like, guys, this is a massive opportunity. But
you could have been the Bobby Axe of wine.
I was just scared out of my mind, and I couldn't see more than like a week ahead of time. And so we closed the stores, did online only, and once the restaurants were shut down, it became very apparent how much people can't live without booze and wine. And sales just went through the roof. So we were like, what in the world is going on here? And, it was crazy for the first chunk of time. Things have leveled off quite a bit since then, but, those first like 2 months or so, it was just a roller coaster ride, crazy. And, we're trying to figure out new systems. We're trying to figure out how to get wine to everybody. The influx of orders was just like kind of way more than we were used to handling. The stores effectively became like a fulfillment warehouse. The team went from helping people pick out things and make recommendations to, there's like a line that we built like in the store of just pulling bottles, packing up boxes or packing up bags, getting them out the door. And that became the whole thing. And, we got so kind of mired and caught up in the day-to-day of doing that. It took me probably 2+ months to kind of like pull my head up out of there and kind of look at the big picture and be like, man, I'm really freaking grateful that like we have this, because it could have been a disaster. So, long story short, really thankful to be in the retail business during all of this, because it's done pretty well, particularly with the online thing. I think we were we never went into it with that intention. It just, happened to be really convenient for this particular situation.
Yeah.
So feel really lucky.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's
Yeah.
really good stuff. So, it's like, man, we could talk for like another hour, bro. Easily. We still got more wine. We'll have to do it. I'll have to have you come back. I know.
We have more time.
Yeah.
I did get us more time.
Oh, cool.
If you want a little more time.
Yeah. Cool. We're going to keep going. Until you got to go. They'll just edit this out. So anyway.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
only if I get more wine.
By all means.
Wait, that's good. That's good.
All right.
Yeah,
Why not?
Yeah. This is
It's good stuff, huh?
This is good stuff. I kind of came up. I'm a little bit older than you, believe it or not, because I'm so pretty. But it's Muhammad Ali is
We're probably closer than you think.
Muhammad Ali is I'm a huge Muhammad Ali fan. So, but anyway, I came up in retail in New York, and then in the late '90s, like when all the cult stuff. So I was drinking like all that big, heavy, like the Turley. So I'm like, I've heard like a lot of the guys.
I love following your Instagram though. You're always drinking some really interesting, cool stuff, like things that I don't see everywhere too.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna have to get download some recs from you. I think.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And but then also like two things. One, like I've ordered wine for we actually met in person at the Maskin tasting. You're super chill. I remember like I was like we had DM, but then I was like you're pouring. I'm like, hey, I'm the black wine guy. You're like, oh, it was really cool. You're like, and Dan Petrossi, he's super cool guy. Can't wait to have him on the show. He's a really cool guy.
He's great.
But like I love like your packaging, like the attention to detail that you have, like even like with the stickers, but even when you get something when it's mailed, it's like it's wrapped and it's got a big sticker. And like, by the way, I need another No Shitty Rosé stick pin. Someone stole that. You've really, you've really given me some more restrained good stuff, like some good boho and like so, like what like I'm on the email list obviously, and like you're always got these crunchy glug glug. I use the term. You guys, the kids use glug glug. Back in my day, we called them porch pounders. Just something you just knock back.
Easy.
So like, tell people like what have you been drinking lately, man?
Man, honestly, to be perfectly candid, not a ton.
Okay.
So I haven't like announced this officially or anything, but my girlfriend is pregnant.
Congratulations.
Yep, thank you very much.
Wow.
So I'm going to be a dad.
Wow. Good luck with that.
I'm really excited about it. We're really pumped. It's a little girl. She's due this December.
You're done.
I know, I'm totally
You're done.
My life is over as I know it.
It is. You're done.
No, but I can't be more excited.
Your daughter's finger, you.
Yes, yeah, big time. I know. I've already cried like a million times, and she's not even here yet. But no, so she hasn't been drinking. So I've kind of taken that time to like.
Good for you.
Also, not to completely not drink, but not as much as maybe before.
Right.
So
what have you been recommending?
But that being said, I think the stuff that still gets me jazzed up at the moment. Obviously things like this, like I'm a huge Commando G fan, and I just love everything that they do. I definitely personally love all the kind of glug crunchy porch pounder or whatever you want to call them styles of wine, like kind of those light reds that have good acidity and freshness, but not really tannic, and you can kind of drink them right away. I actually really like stuff that you can just pop and drink.
Pop and pour. Yeah.
Of course, love the opportunity to drink something really great that's classic,
like
that's got some age on it and is like ready. But I like the kind of simplicity and freshness and easiness of drinking stuff that's kind of meant to be drunk a little more young, and That's honestly where I spend a lot of my time. So, and that could be Beaujolais, that could be some fun Jura wines, that could be big fan of Chablis in general. I love drinking Chablis. Certainly into my Italian wines still. I love Sicilian stuff. And I love as much as I kind of hate to say this, the kind of lean towards funky, weird blends that are just kind of a mashup of different things that isn't necessarily about terroir sometimes, but it's just about being delicious. I'm really into that kind of stuff. So a pretty broad spectrum of things, but generally speaking, either really crisp whites, minerally whites like Chablis or maybe some dry Riesling. Love Chenin, huge Chenin fan. Or those kind of lighter reds. You can kind of put a little bit of a chill on it and go to town.
No, totally cool. Totally cool. So, like, earlier you said it was like Ruth Chris was kind of like when you kind of open your eyes to wines. What was the bottle of wine? What was the bottle of wine that you had where you're like, yo, I want to do this wine? Like fuck, I want to do this. Wow.
Yeah. I've kind of had a couple of those experiences, but I would say the main one, or the first one that I remember is, and this was when I was still living in Maryland, and I bought this. At the time, I think I paid like $75 or something like that. And at the
That's
time,
a lot at that time.
It was the most I'd ever spent on a bottle, and I was like really freaked out to buy it. But it was a bottle of a 2000 vintage Les Forts de Latour, which is the second wine from Chateau Latour. And it was 2000 vintage. And I think had to have been like 03 or 04 or something like that. And I remember I was really excited to buy it. It was the most expensive thing I'd ever purchased, or most expensive wine I'd ever purchased. I go home, I get my book out, my World Atlas of Wine book or something. And I'm sitting in my spot, pour the wine, looking at Bordeaux, figuring it out. And I remember smelling it and being like, holy shit, wow. And I think even at the time I was taking little wine notes for myself. And I remember writing in there, best wine I've ever tasted. And that was kind of I was like, oh man, this is next level. It's way different than the other thing. I mean, before then I was probably spending $15 a bottle, comparing, this Aussie Shiraz with an animal on it next to this other Aussie Shiraz with an animal on it. So this was big time for me.
The Aussie Shiraz, which shall remain unnamed.
Yeah.
The wine formerly known as Aussie Shiraz. For sure. And so that's cool. That I totally get that. So then you have that bottle. So obviously, I mean, you worked at EMP. What's what is the bottle of wine oh my God, what's the wowest bottle of wine you've ever had in your life? The sickest shit you ever had?
Yeah, it's hard to say, man. I've been extremely, extremely fortunate when I look back on where I've gotten to work, who I've been able to be surrounded by, the opportunities to open things that I think just not everybody gets to open in their lifetime. I've opened some really crazy stuff between the various restaurants where I've worked and dinners and events and things like that I've done. So it's I feel really, really fortunate to have been open a ton of great things. Man, I think maybe the one that I always say is kind of the craziest bottle that I've ever opened was a bottle of Romani Conti from 1875. And this was it's about 10 years ago. I was working at RN74 in San Francisco under Raj Par.
Okay.
And this was a bottle out of the Wilf Jaeger cellar.
Wow.
Who's a crazy collector.
I know who he is.
Yeah. And it was just the wildest thing.
Ever. I mean, what was the fill? I mean, what was? I mean,
the wine itself was fine,
right? But it's 1874.
But it wasn't dead.
Right,
it wasn't dead.
Right.
But it was wow, this is the
drinking history, man.
Drinking history, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there were still slaves
so
when this bottle wine was made.
I think the other crazy experience that I had was a few years ago. I think this was summer of 2016 or 2017. did an event over in Burgundy with the Comte Bel Air property.
I got to pause. Just your life doesn't suck.
No,
Everybody, his life doesn't suck.
No, again, like I said, super fortunate. They were celebrating the 200th anniversary of the domain, or being of in the spot where they were, and they were celebrating at the Chateau de Von Romane, which is where the property is located, and they're the monopole owners of the La Romane Grand Cru in Von Romane, and they did a vertical tasting of 75 vintages of La Romane, going back to 1865 for that one. Yeah, it was
That's bananas.
Stupid. Yeah, it was like ridiculous, like the craziest sommelier moment of all time. You just don't get to do that kind of stuff. It's not normal.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
the crazy stuff.
That is the crazy stuff. Yeah, that's really crazy. And
But honestly, man, I mean, that stuff's super cool, and it's like cool to tell those stories and whatnot. But like, the stuff I really love to drink on a regular basis is things like this.
yeah, no, I hear you, man. Like
Yeah.
it's really nice to have those experiences, because those are, like you said, those are storied experiences. Like you're in rarefied air. You're with like billionaires sometimes. I mean, it's a crazy world you live in, but like this, like you said, or this is what it's about. It's like popping a bottle, having a conversation with people.
For me, it was always like the kind of fun social element of it, and
Right.
like getting people together. Opening something fun that's delicious, goes well with the food. Like that piece of it was always the most fun part of wine for me, not the show-offy kind of stuff.
Totally.
I've never forgotten where I'm from. I was born in Dundalk, Maryland, which, if anybody knows where Dundalk, Maryland is, not fancy whatsoever. Single.
I mean, I'm
single
from Jersey, but Maryland's not that fancy, bro.
I'm not a fancy person. You know what I mean? I'm just not fancy. So I've gotten to work at some fancy places. But
He's got on some Air Force Ones, though, and I mean, not some Air Force. He's got some Jordan ones. My bad. That's legit.
Yeah, but no. So like, I'm really lucky that I've gotten to have those experiences. But this kind of stuff brings me home.
Right on. So listen, man. Tell everybody. First of all, thank you so much for coming on. So tell everybody where they can reach you, and tell them about Verve, and where they can find more about you and what you're up to these days.
Yeah. So vervewine.com is our website, and check it out. We've got beyond just what we think is a really awesome selection of wines that you can buy and enjoy. There's a lot of great content on there too. I do like a every other week thing with some winemakers and things called Wine with Friends. We've posted all of our videos on there. We've got a great blog. So there's a lot of good content on the site too. It's not just for like buying stuff. You can actually read and get some interesting content there. Instagram, of course. My personal one is at Dustin Wilson MS.
Look for the blue check,
Which
not the broke Dustin Wilson who's probably trying to impersonate him. Has the blue check. He's legit.
You'll find various things on my Instagram. Sometimes I get really angry and about political stuff, and I'll put that up there.
I love it, man.
Sometimes I put up pictures of wine.
Yeah.
So it's just me.
Right on,
that's
man.
how it is. Or follow us if you'd like more specific wine content. Follow Verve. It's just at Verve Wine on Instagram. So yeah, those are good places to follow.
Well, man, damn. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you come back.
I should say, sorry, like you, sign up for the email list. Go to vervewine.com, get on the email list. We're always doing, that's a good spot to find out about deals and sales and cool stuff that's maybe hasn't hit the website yet, things like that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm on the list, obviously. And I love the content.
Thank you.
And I see who you're on there with, and hopefully you can tell your friends, like, you need to sit down with MJ. That motherfucker's pretty cool.
Saying, man, this is definitely the most legit podcast I've ever been on. This is proper.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Can't wait to have you again. But more importantly, congratulations. I hope everything just goes wonderful with the birth of your daughter. Hey, man, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Appreciate it.
All right. Peace. And the engineer's out the room.
And the engineers-
He's like, they're drinking wine and talking.
You're never gonna stop. I just bought us a little more time so that we can
That's
stop
fine.
right at 7.
Um,
Thank you. Good job, you guys. That flowed so nicely.
oh, yeah.
Like this delicious, freaking amazing wine, by the way.
Yeah, man.
It's good, huh?
Wow.
Oh, it's really good,
Tasty.
man. It's really tasty. You know, I'm a Rhone freak. You know, I one of my, and it's all because it's not about me, but I went to this tasting with John Capon. Like I've been in the business for like 2 months. So that's some freaking guy, some Goldman Sachs guy house, and he had Reyes, and he had like the first vintage of like '95 Saint Quentin.